Good morning, students. Welcome back in virtual learning class. In the previous lecture, we were at the history chapter 2nd of NCERT book. Fine. So, the second chapter was from trade to territory. The company established power. Now, today I have come up once again with the part 2 of that second chapter from trade to territory. So, we will sum up, we will have a quick look of part 1, what we have learned. So, how company came in India? What was their purpose? Yes, definitely their purpose was trade, not to territory. But for taking that permission, which things they needed, how they have taken permission through charter from Elizabeth I, they slowly how they entered in India, then through the Indian king, how they entered, how they capture all the expansion, all the land, so many rights, and all that things we have seen. Then we have seen death of Aurangzeb, then how Robert Clive fought against Tipu Sultan, and all that things were there. Okay, now that was related to the eastern part of India. So now they were having control over the eastern part of India. Now we are going to see how and what was happened in southern part. Are they thinking to go over there? What was their purpose? Okay, let's see. Again, here we go. Words that matter. Here again, few words are there that we are going to learn today. You can take screenshot of that. Keep notebook with you. You can write down your notes in your own words. You can take out important key points in your own words. And after that, when I will send you PDF file of question answers, that time you have to complete it in your CW. Okay? And read the chapter twice. So, we will start our chapter. In the southern part of India, what happened? Okay? So, what happened, students? Uh, in the southern part of India, in the Mysore, there was an important and very strong ruler, king, Hyder Ali Khan. And Hyder Ali's son was a Tipu Sultan. Tipu Sultan was also a very strong ruler in state of Mysore. And in 1782, when Tipu Sultan came over on the throne, when he became a king, he made so many changes. Okay, he made so many changes. But as you can see, Tipu Sultan, the tiger of Mysore, he called as a tiger of Mysore. Why? There is a story behind that also. Why he called tiger of Mysore? The story is once in a Mysore, he fight with tiger without any weapon and he won. Okay, so that's why Tipu Sultan called tiger of Mysore. And after that, what happened? When he became king, in 1782, he had taken lots of decisions against Britishers. He don't want their rule over the country, and that's why he had taken few important decisions. So what was that decisions? So first of all, when they were doing export and import from India to Britain, so that Tipu Sultan don't want actually. So in 1785, Tipu controlled the trade of Malabar coast. So from that Malabar coast, few export were going on. What was that? The export of sandalwood, pepper, and cardamom. And especially that was the speciality of the country. And that's why Tipu Sultan thought that yes, now I will stop all the export system from the country. Why East India Company is going to have that control if a king is alive, if a king is over there. That's why he stopped that export from the Malabar coast. And few information is given here. Tipu was the eldest son of Sultan Hyder Ali of Mysore and his wife Fatima Farooq Nisa, the daughter of Mir Moinuddin, governor of Kanapa. Tipu promoted a more widespread use of Hindustani language in southern India. Tipu introduced a number of administrative innovations. As I said earlier, he want to change, he want to take important decision, including the introduction of a new coinage, new Moladi lunisolar calendar, and new land revenue system, and initiated the growth of Mysore silk industry. So, water control that time having East India Company, all that control want to establish Tipu Sultan, and that's why he had taken few important decisions over there. Okay, so what happened next? So now East India Company was very curious about that. Now what to do? Now we don't have any export, we don't have any import. All the income stopped over there. So what to do now? They don't want any type of interruption in their matter. And that's why to suppress the power of Mysore, okay, listen carefully students, to suppress the power of Mysore, what they started? They started to think about war. Now no any other option is there. We have to fight against Tipu Sultan, and that's why 4 wars were fought with Mysore. Why the British were furious and they saw Hyder and Tipu's ambitions, arrogance, and dangerous. So rulers who had to be controlled and crushed. So that 4 wars within the 1767 to 69, 1780 to 84, 1790 to 92, and 99. Don't worry about the dates. All dates are given in the textbook. No need to worry about that. I'm just explaining. So only in the last, okay, only in the last, when 1799 the last battle was there. So that time at Srirangapattanam did the company ultimately win a victory over there. Okay, so in that war, company East India Company got a victory. They won, and Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital Srirangapattanam. He was defending for his kingdom. and Mysore was placed under a former ruling dynasty of a Vodiyas, and subsidiary alliance was imposed on the state. And which wars were there? No, that four wars. What that wars called? Anglo-Mysore War. That four wars which were held during 1767 to 1799, that war called Anglo-Mysore War. Okay, and in that war Tipu was killed by East India Company. And um, after that war, what happened? So Tipu want to expand the iron case Mysorean rockets, which is developed or deployed in his resistance against the military advances of the British. He remained an implacable enemy of the British East India Company, bringing them into renewed conflict with the attack on British allied. And slowly, in the Third Anglo-Mysore War, Tipu was forced into humiliating treaty, losing a number of previously conquered territories. So slowly, how they started, what they did over there. Slowly, they were conquering all the territories. Okay, and in the fourth war, the combined forces of British in East India Company. Combined forces means whatever the European companies were there, they get together and they want to attack on him or the country. Okay, so Nizam of Hyderabad defeated Tipu and he was killed on 4th May 1799 while defending his fort of Srirangapattanam. Okay, it was the capital of his kingdom and he want to defend all that capital over there. And after that, on the throne, um, Vodayars were there. Means they were controlling all over there. So what British East India Company, what they did, they stopped all the local merchants to deal with Britishers. Okay, so slowly they started their ruling. And before that also, okay, before that also, what Tipu Sultan did, so it will impact, you can see in the next war. So what Tipu Sultan did over there, so what are the local merchants were there, no? So with that local merchants, he told, he introduced, he explained all the things regarding Britishers. You are not supposed to do business with Britishers. Only do your business with the Indian companies. And what are the army over there? So he gave employment, he gave jobs, okay, in the army. So because of that, what happened? Can you guess? So because of that, British army, French army, he got modernized army system. He got modernized technique of war. Okay, are you getting? He want to enter all the French army or the Britain army into the Indian army. Because of that, they were having lots of modern techniques, and that's why Tipu was want to learn all that modern techniques. And when they entered over there in country's army, at that time they taught lots of modern techniques of battle, modern techniques of weapons, and all that things. But unfortunately, he died in that Anglo-Mysore War. So, uh, from the late 18th century, the company also sought to curb and eventually destroy Maratha power, because Maratha were now controlling all over the country. With their defeat in the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, the Marathas' dream of ruling from Delhi was shattered. Why? Because Delhi was the main uh, center over there, and that's why they want to control Delhi also. So they were divided into many states under the different chiefs or the Sardar. So, so whatever the chiefs were there, they called Sardar, belonging to the dynasties. Okay, few dynasties actually were there. So which dynasty were there? That was Scindia, Holkar, and Gaikwad. That dynasties were there, and that dynasties were uh, doing work under Peshwa. Peshwa, Peshwa was the principal minister, we can say, or the main who was handling all the Marathas. That Peshwa, under Peshwa, that three dynasties were there: Scindia, Holkar, and Gaikwad, and Bhosle also. So these chiefs were held together. Okay, and that when they get together in a confederacy, means alliance, means in late 18th century company fought battle with Maratha also. Okay, so the Marathas were subdued, and in second Anglo-Maratha war in 1803 and 05, Orissa and territories of Yamuna and Agra were lost to Britishers. So in that battle also Maratha defeated over there by the Britishers. Okay, so uh, one more great personality was there. Mahatji Scindia and Nana Fadnis were two famous Maratha soldiers and statesmen of late 18th century. When Maratha were subdued in a series of war, in the first war that ended in 1782 with Treaty of Salpai, there was no clear victor. The second Anglo-Maratha War was fought on different fronts, resulting in the British gaining Orissa and the territories north Yamuna River, including Agra and Delhi. And finally, Third Anglo-Maratha War of 1817-19 crushed Maratha power were destroyed. The Peshwa was removed and sent away to a Bithur near Kanpur with a pension. And the company now had complete control over the territories of south of Vindhya. Okay, so in this way, they were having all control over the southern part of India as well. Okay, now company was having all the control. Okay, so now they thought that um, early in the 19th century company pursued the aggressive policy of territorial expansion. They thought that now if suppose we are having in the central and eastern part of India all the control, but we should expand our control more. So they thought that, Britishers thought that, why we should not get paramount power. So what is that? Let's see the claim of paramountcy. So there was a ruler. Ruler we can say under the Lord Hastings, who was the Governor General from 1813 to 1823. Okay, so he brought a new policy of paramountcy was initiated by him from Lord Hastings. Now the company claimed that its authority was paramount or the supreme. So what is the meaning of actually paramount power? That is the supreme power. Okay, uh, having a strong control, supreme power. So hence, its power was greater than that Indian states. In order to protect its interest, it was the justified in annexing of threatening to annex any Indian kingdom. Means because of that supreme power, they can annex any kingdom of India. So this view continued to guide later British policies as well. So he brought that policy. So after that, what happened? Now they were having control over the central part of India, eastern part of India. So they thought that why we should not expand our power any other region. So they become very annexed, and because of that most part of India, including in 1849 in Punjab, and they also want to establish indirect rule in the Afghanistan in 1842 as well. But before that, what happened? This process, however, did not unchallenged. Means, for example, when British tried annex the small state of Kittur, so with the help of Kittur, now we can we say Karnataka. So there was a queen in Kittur whose name was Chennamma. So Chennamma took to arms to the lead an anti-British resistance movement. Okay, she raised a battle against the Britishers. That was anti-British resistance movement. But she was arrested in 1824 and died in prison itself in 1829. But Rayanna, a poor chowkidar of Sangoli in Kittur, carried on the resistance. With popular support, he destroyed many British champs and records. He was caught and hanged by British in 1830. Okay, so after Chennamma, Chowkidar were there, and that Chowkidar also fought against the Britishers. But in the late 1830s, East India Company became worried about Russia because Russia was also expanding its control. So it imagined that Russia might expand across the Asia and entered India from the northwest side. Britishers think about that. Now what to do? Because they want only control over there. Okay, so they thought that now what to do. So driven by a fear, a British now wanted to secure their control over the northwest side as well. Okay, in the central and in the eastern part already they were there, but in the northern and western part also they want control. So they fought a prolonged war with Afghanistan between 1838 and 1842 and established indirect company rule there. Sindh was taken over the 1843, and after that Punjab also they were having. But the presence of Maharaja Ranjit Singh held back the company, and after the Maharaja Ranjit Singh death in 1839, two prolonged wars were fought with the Sikh kingdoms, and ultimately in 1849 Punjab was annexed. Okay, so that was the claim of paramountcy. So slowly Britishers established the paramountcy, supreme power over the country. And who brought that paramountcy term? Lord Hastings. Okay, write down that name, Lord Hastings. So next slide. So here again you can read it out regarding the Russia. So because the Punjab, Afghanistan, and Sikhs were fought against them, so finally Punjab was also annexed over there. So after that, again one change occur, one term occur over there. And what was that? Let's see. Okay, so the doctrine of lapse, that term came over there. What is that? Let's see. So the final wave of annexation occurred under the Lord Dalhousie. If you can see in the picture, he is Lord Dalhousie. So, who was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856. Okay, he devised a policy that came to be known as the Doctrine of Lapse. Okay, so the Doctrine of Lapse declared that if an Indian ruler died without a male heir, his kingdom would lapse, that is, become a part of company territory. Means what? Means what? Lord Dalhousie told that, brought that concept under this any king who doesn't had natural hair. Okay, means if suppose a king don't have any son after that king to rule over the country, to rule over the kingdom. So what they are going to do? They had to give away his territory to the Britishers. Means if they don't have any natural hair, they don't have any son to rule over the country, they have to give all his territory to the Britishers. Okay, and that term is called Doctrine of Lapse. Okay, so within that term, and because of that term, few kingdoms they have to give. And what was that? So one kingdom after another was annexed simply by applying this doctrine. So which state or which kingdoms were there? That was Satara in 1848, then Sambalpur in 1850, Udaipur in 1852, and Nagpur 1853, and also Jhansi in 1854. They have to give their all that kingdoms to the under that doctrine of lapse. So here we can read all the information regarding that. Okay, so that annexation policy that devised by the Lord Dalhousie was the Governor General. Okay, so the latter supplanted a long established right of an Indian sovereign without an heir to choose a successor. If heir will be not there, they can't choose any successor. In addition, British decided whether potential rulers were competent enough, and the doctrine and its applications were widely regarded by Indian as uh, all that whatever the legal process were there, under that legal process they have to give under that doctrine of lapse, they have to give that territories. So here Satara, Jaipur, Sambalpur, Nagpur and Jhansi, Tanjore, okay, so that regions they have to give. And the company added about 4 million pounds sterling to its annual revenue by use of this doctrine. So territories with them, but also revenue they were collecting through the doctrine of lapse. See how Britishers controlled over the country. Okay, and slowly in this way the expansion of British territorial power in India get spread over there. Okay, So few map we are going to look how they expand their power. Let's see. Here we go. The expansion of British territorial power in India, and that power also give their name. So in the first map you can see, which is the black portion over there, that we called Bombay Presidency. Okay, so here in the second map, that is the Madras Presidency, and in the third part where the darken place you can see, that is the Bengal Presidency. So slowly they expand, they want to try, they want to expand their territorial power in India. Okay, observe it carefully. Now all that expansion were there. If suppose expansion is there, they were expanding all the territorial power, so they have to establish few administration, because one man or few men cannot handle all that things. That's why they want administration, they want few groups, they want few um, power that administer all that particular regions. Means suppose Bombay is there, Madras or Bengal, one man cannot control all that things, right? So they thought that why we should not setting new administration. Okay, so it means what? If suppose our school is there, a school is having primary section, secondary section, junior college, senior college, so it's having different administration. Am I right? Okay, secondary section having a different administration. They don't they cannot mixed up with the primary or the college, and though they will be mixed up, it will not use of that, it will create chaos and confusion. Yes, right? So all the sections are different, all the in charge are different, all the teachers are different. In that way, Britishers want to establish new administration for different region. And what was it? Let's see. The company army. So Warren Hastings was Governor General from 1773, from 1785, was one of the main important figure who played a significant role in the expansion of company. So by his time the company had acquired power not only in Bengal but also Bombay, Madras, British territories were broadly divided into administrative units called presidencies. So there were three presidencies, as we have seen, Bombay, Madras and Bengal. So each was ruled by governor Warren Hastings. Warren Hastings, the first Governor General, actually introduced several administrative reforms, notably in the sphere of justice. Okay, and a new system of justice was established. Each district was have two courts. Okay, a new system they want to establish. If a big expansion is there, so matters will be there, issues will be there, so they built a two courts over there. That two courts, first one is criminal court, that is Fauzdari Adalat, we can say. Okay, and a civil court, that a Diwani Adalat. So criminal court means it is related to the crime and etc. And civil court means, Diwani Adalat means small issues regarding property, regarding money, that will be solved in the civil court. So there were Maulvis and Hindu Pandits interpreted Indian laws by the European district collectors who presides over the civil court. What Britishers told that, Britishers were emphasizing on Maulavis and Hindu Pandits that you told all the laws regarding your issues or your religion. So we will try to solve that. So they were insisting, tell us all the things. So criminal courts were still under a Qazi and Mufti. Okay, Mufti means a jurist of Muslim community responsible for expounding the law that the Qazi would administer. Okay, and Qazi means a judge, a type of judge. Okay, so a Mufti but under supervision of collectors. So now under the collectors also, who were there under the collectors? Few people working under the collector. Now in our areas also collector is there. Okay, and under that collector, peasants, zamindars and local residents were there under the collector. So a major problem was that Brahman Pandits gave different interpretations of local law based on different schools of Dharma Shastra. Okay, so Brahman Pandits were there, so they were giving teaching of Dharma Shastra to bring about uniformity. All were are same, all are equal, that uniformity. So in 1775, 11 Pandits were asked to compile a digest of Hindu law. Okay, so uh, they thought that it can be a useful, and a new Supreme Court was established also. While Court of Appeal, the Sada Nijamat Adalat was also set up in Calcutta, and the principal figure in Indian district was the collector, as I told. And under that collector, peasants, zamindar, and local residents were there. And after that, um, if expansion is there, now they establish courts to um, solve all the matters. Now they want manpower as well. Am I right? If company is expanding, so manpower is needed. So they thought that why we should not set up an army. In the colonial rule in India brought in some new ideas of administration and reform, but its power rested on its military strength. Okay, so the Mughal army was mainly composed of cavalry. Okay, so in that cavalry, who was there? Sawars. Sawars means trained soldiers on horseback. Hmm? So Sawars means what? Whatever the trained soldiers were there, that were on the horseback. They can ride the horse. The cavalry dominated by the army, and second one was infantry, that is पैदल means foot soldiers, जो पैदल चलते हैं, जो पैदल they can form a administration. So they were given training in archery means tirbaji, tiranzadi, and the use of the sword. So that two traditional army they set. The rural area had a large number of armed peasants, and the local zamindars often supplied the Mughals with pedal soldiers. And this change occurred in the 18th century when Mughal successor states like Awadh, Banaras started recruiting peasants into their armies and training them as a professional soldiers. Let's see. So a change occurred when in the 18th century. So they were having the proper training. Training, and under that training they got a professional, as a professional soldier credit. So the East India Company adopted the same method when it began recruitment for its own army, which came to be known as the Sepoy Army. Sepoy means from the Indian word sipahi, we can say. Its meaning is soldier. So, as warfare technology changed from 1820s, the cavalry requirements of company's army declined. This is because British Empire was fighting in Burma, Afghanistan, Egypt, where soldiers were armed with muskets and matchlocks. Now, um, what was that? You will think about that. Oh, a little bit different words are there. In the first slide, I have given the meanings: muskets and matchlocks. May the soldiers of company army had to keep the pace with changing military requirements, and its infantry regiment now became more important. Means, which were the muskets, a heavy gun used by infantry soldier. Okay, to hold that heavy gun, they were having proper training. That is the musket. And matchlock means an early type of gun in which the powder was ignited by a match. Okay, that was the matchlock. And that proper training they were having. Let's see. So, the East India Company started as a trading company. So, slowly, it is known as a trading company. So, to further its trading interest, the company started to interfere in local policies and later on took control of local administration. Actually, it was not their duty, but they were having all the control over the country. That's why um, they started to interfere in local policies, local matters, and want to control all the administration. Through various social, political, and administrative changes, the company took full control over 63% of Indian territory and 78% of the population. Means you can imagine how Britishers came slowly, and how they expand with different type of policies, different type of strategies, we can say. Remaining parts was under indirect control of East India Company. Yes, where manpower will be there, obviously that manpower gets the control. And East India Company having lots of manpower, army, सवार्स, पैदल, सिपॉय. सिपॉय मीन्स जो इंडियन आर्मी, जो इंडियन कंट्री से जो सिपाही आते थे, दैट कॉल्ड द सिपॉय. सो what that sepoy feel, how did they will react to the changes in their life and their identity. They don't want, but Britishers force them to work under their control, and that is there the sense of how they were, and that is the impact. What was the impact? That in the third chapter we are going to learn. Okay, so all that things, all the conclusion part, all the regarding the Tipu Sultan, the war with Marathas, the claim to paramountcy, doctrine of lapse, expansion through the map we have seen, setting up a new administration, and the company army. Now you can think about that. By the 1857, company came to exercise direct rule over about the country and combined with it indirect influence on the remaining territory and population of the country. Okay, and in this way East India Company virtually a whole of India under its control. Okay, hope you understood this lesson, students. Now what you have to do, you have to read this chapter twice. Okay, in a story, don't worry about dates. Don't worry about name. See, a simple method I will tell you. You have to make column, one column of date and one column of name, and one more column of work. So in this way, for each and every chapter I am telling student, date you are supposed to write. In that date, after that date, um, during particular that day, whose rule over there, that name, okay, and work, what he worked over there within that century, within that period. A simple way means you are able to learn all that things easily, I will tell you. Okay, so just once, do once, means for a whole year you will keep with you all that record. After the lesson also you can do, in your notebook also you can do it, or you can write down on the page and you can paste it at your, when where you sit to study, no, there you can paste that page. Okay, you can draw a flow chart also, all that things, yes, what happened next, what happened next, that in that flow chart also you can draw all that things. Okay, hope you understood it. If any query will be there, write it down in your notebook. Okay, and try to find out answer. If you can find out that answer, it is well and good. If not, I will tell you, don't worry about that. Okay, and read chapter in a story form. Think you are reading a story. Don't take a bother of history. Okay, it is all the stories. How we are reading story, story कैसे हम पढ़ते हैं, है ना? Take a interest, and in that story form you have to just read it. जैसे स्टोरी हम पढ़ रहे हैं, डोंट थिंक वी आर रीडिंग हिस्ट्री. ओके, सो स्टोरी में कैसे वन बाय वन इंसिडेंट्स होते हैं, स्मॉल स्मॉल थिंग्स इट इज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड. Like that, incidents are there only in history, and that incidents only we have to learn. Simple, that's it. Don't worry about that. Okay, so take care and read chapter, don't forget. Okay, if you will not read chapter, you are not getting the concept clear. Okay, when you will read it, then all the things you will get clear. Okay, we will meet in the next session now. So till that, thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye.